All right. Now, listen, unless you're Charlie D'Amelio or Jason Derulo, the chances are Kellie Henry has more followers than you do on TikTok. In fact, she has approximately 20 million more TikTok likes than I do. She's danced with her spouse more times on TikTok than anyone I know. On top of all that, she is a super intentional mom, raising 4 kids with her husband, Dan. Kellie Henry, welcome to the Aro podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, thank you. All right, let's dive in. I want to how, and everybody needs to go check out their TikTok page. How in the world did this start? You guys have absolutely blown up. Walk me through how did this TikTok craze start, and with you and Dan? What was the beginnings of it? How has it evolved? I want to hear all about this.
Yeah, so not on purpose. That's really that's really how it started. So it was during COVID, the pandemic. Everybody was home and my husband's brother was into it and got Dan on, and so they were just kind of doing it to connect, and then it was fun. It really was such a fun time on TikTok because everybody was scared. Everybody was home. Nobody
Yeah.
knew what was going
Mm,
on. And it was a way to connect people to being on here. It was a way
mm,
to escape kind of this world that was scaring people. And
yeah.
you didn't know if you had a job, you didn't know whatever. And so we connected with so many people online and we just had fun with it. We got our kids involved, like learning these dances. It just became a fun outlet, and then we started growing. So not on purpose, it was kind of an
Amazing.
escape, and but it's been fun, and now here we are.
So who's the more so are you, or I mean you can just tell, like maybe one or both of you, like when you're doing the dishes, like I assume just like a dance party breaks out most nights. Is it like who is that? Is that more you or Dan? Like who's that natural dancer?
We do love dance parties in our kitchen for sure. I would say both of us and our kids are crazy. They're just our mini me's that love to just get down and love attention. So it's fun. It
That's
just
so
probably
awesome.
depends on the song who starts dancing first.
All right, now you have 4 kids, right? So how
Yes.
old are they? What's their boys, girls, ages?
Yeah, we have 4 kids, 2 girls and 2 boys. So our 2 girls are the oldest. We have a 13 and 12-year old, and then our boys
Mhm.
are 9 and 7. So they're pretty close in age,
That's awesome.
but they're really fun. They're at a fun age. I wish I could freeze time right now because my oldest still thinks mom and dad is cool, and she
Right.
still like wants to hang out with us, and she's not too into her friends yet. So I feel like I'm in this golden bubble and I don't want to leave it, but I know it's going to
So
happen soon.
that's so beautiful. Maybe not. Who knows? I mean,
I know,
I
because
mean,
we're
you
pretty
got cool
cool. We're
parents.
pretty
That's right.
cool.
Yeah, you have cool
So
parents, right?
yeah, it's
So
fine.
have you had? I mean, that's actually was one of my questions. I was curious. So my daughter's 12, and I think I'd get just. I think her eyes would end up on the very back of her skull from all the eye rolls by watching me dance. Is there any, or have they fully embraced it? Do they get like, Dad, Mom, stop?
I mean, like I said, our kids are kind of psycho like us, right? They love attention. So it's usually our kids are wanting, every time we do a video with them, it's them wanting to most of the time. Like, I want to do that one. Or I've seen, my oldest, she doesn't have TikTok, but her friends do. So they'll be
Mhm.
learning dances at school. She'll be like, I want to do this one. So it's a great way for us to connect. And it's our way of compromising with her because I don't feel like
Mm.
she's old enough to have social media for herself. We can kind of balance that, but she is able to do it with us. So she gets a little bit of it. So that's kind of how we're
That's so
trying to
cool.
balance it a little bit.
Yeah.
But there are times where they're like, "Oh, my friends saw this one of you," and but I secretly think that it's cool that they think
I
it's
would think so.
cool. They don't want to tell us. So
I mean, are you like are you the celebrity parents at pickup, like at school pickup?
well, no, we are not. But there was one time where we're friends with the Utah Jazz Bear, and he
Mm.
was over at our house one time, and my daughter's friends, like all of them, were over and thought it was like so cool, and I was like, "You guys got to remember this. How cool that you are feeling right now when you want to." When you get older and you don't like your parents, just remember this
That's
moment.
so awesome. All right, so take me back to back you're in COVID, things are going crazy, everybody's scared. You start doing some videos. How did it? How did it take off? I mean, what was there a first video where you and Dan looked at each other and said, "Holy crap! Like this is something's happening here." What was that kind of that first moment when you realized that it was really gaining some momentum?
There were, it was just genuinely so fun. I remember one time it was during COVID, we went in a parking lot. My husband and his brother were doing this dance, but I was in the van. Like I was driving my minivan, the door was open and I was recording them and we were going really slowly as they're like outside dancing. And I was just like rolling laughing. And it was just so fun to bring us together. But I
Yeah.
think what was beautiful about it is people saw our family and our connection
Mm,
with our kids, with our marriage, that they started to comment about our family and how much they
yeah.
appreciated that. And that's when we were kind of like, you know what, maybe we can show people
Mm,
how amazing your families can be, and how if you put your focus on your family, maybe we have something here. And that's kind of where we've been trying to, now it's post COVID and
yeah.
TikTok and the algorithm's a little different and stuff. And that's kind of where
Mm,
we're trying to go forward, is just showing people that you can do fun things with your family, that you can be intentional, that there's this balance, right? And
yeah.
Joey, you and I have talked about this before, but technology's not going anywhere.
Yeah. That's
You
right.
know, like as much as we would like to put our kids in a bubble, we can't.
Mm,
And so it's trying to teach them how to handle it, how to use it, how to balance it, how to be on top of it before, it becomes a problem. And that's why I love what you guys do.
well, it's such a great positive message. One thing I love about it is it's no, maybe this is a weird way to say it. It's not like there's a self-importance about it. It's just I find when people are willing to be their true selves and be silly, what it does, it just gives, what you all do, it just gives license to other people to do the same thing and just to have fun and not have to, we're in such a culture, whether it's a hustle culture or a culture of, trying to make yourself look great or whatever it is. You don't take yourselves too seriously. I mean, this is a platform for you to spread optimism and positivity and great things and family, a great family culture. But I just love that you all do it in such a fun, lighthearted way. Is that a natural thing? Is that kind of who you all, the two of you, are, and your kids and the culture it is? Just like, hey, we don't take ourselves too seriously. We have fun. We love each other. What is that family culture like?
Yeah, yeah. We are what you see is what you get. If you meet us in person versus what you see on our stuff, like that is who we
Yeah.
are. Um, we are silly, we're fun. But it has been a journey. At the beginning, I wouldn't do any TikToks if I didn't have like my hair done or my makeup done. Like it was a real thing. I'd be always like cleaning up in the background, like, oh, our laundry's here, we got to move that off the couch. Like I'd create this little space where my thing is, where you could
Yeah.
see, and then there's just a disaster on all this other side. And so it's been a journey for me as a woman, as a mom, to just kind of have to
Right.
let that go and be like, we are real. And I'll
Yeah.
post without my makeup on sometimes, and we'll do things where I feel like I look like a hot mess, where I wouldn't have done that,
Mm,
2.5 years ago when we first started. So it's been a journey for us as well.
yeah.
But I
Is
love
it?
living authentically and feeling okay with that, and
Mm.
just having to not care, because we're a real family and our house is usually never clean. So
I love that line, living authentically and feeling okay about that. Um, what a great line. It is the, uh, have you gotten stories from people when they reach out, or whether they meet you in person or even in the comments section, where it's just like where you actually see like, wait, I mean, through that silly dance, through this culture we're showing, we're actually, it's connecting with people. I mean, even stories that have moved you from people of, even through COVID. Have you had any of those through, again, emails, comments, or in-person interactions?
we have got a lot of really sweet comments. We've
Mm,
opened up a little bit, but we've been able to do a lot of good. But we have had people being like, I was going to take my life,
wow.
and we were, your video made
Mm,
me realize, like, made me smile. And
wow.
those ones have been like really impactful for us.
Gosh.
So we've had those. we've been able to, we raised almost $1 million with the American Heart
I
Association
saw
through
that. Yeah, tell
the,
that story. That's a great. I
yeah.
was reading about that.
So one of our friends, he had open heart surgery, and he's on TikTok, and he's a heart warrior, and
Hmm.
they reached out to him to want to do something, and he reached out to us, and we were like, absolutely. We actually, my oldest daughter was actually an identical twin who died of a heart thing in the womb.
Wow.
And so we are passionate about that. And so we just helped them, and we were able to do fundraising through TikTok, and raising almost $1 million for the American Heart Association. So then we
Wow.
get all of those people, those amazing stories. Heart disease is the number one killer
Mm.
in America. So it, so many, that we get a lot of those messages, and
Yeah.
it's kind of this moment when you realize, okay, I got online to be silly and do these things, but we are making an impact. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And it is kind of, you make that switch to understand that you do have a platform and you can do good with it
Mm.
if you choose to do that intentionally, right?
Yeah, that's right. Wow. I didn't know that about your story with your oldest being a twin, and
Yeah.
we don't have to drill too deep into it. But I think what's striking to me about that is your. I mean, every time I see you, it's the light up the room smile and positivity, and Dan silly and fun, and that is knowing that's part of your story and the heartache that I'm sure came with that. That's amazing that you've continued to keep that outlook on life.
Well,
Um,
thank you. Yeah.
yeah, that's
And that's one thing, the direction we're wanting to go. And I've talked about this a while ago on our pages, and like you said, you can scroll, we have a lot on there. So,
it goes
but
forever.
people will be like, people tell us, your couple goals or your family's great, and I take pride in my family. Like,
Yeah,
I think they're beautiful and I love them so much, but it hasn't always been like this. It's hard work, and my husband and I have gone through stuff.
yeah.
We almost didn't make it. We've been married
Mm,
17 years, and at our 10-year mark, we were really thinking of divorce.
wow.
So we had to really work hard at it. So when people say that to us, I appreciate that comment so much. But
Mm,
what we're trying to go forward is telling people, it's hard work.
yeah.
It's hard work, and it's worth it. And
Mm,
you see, it's so hard with social media. You see people online and you think that they have this perfect life, or these successful millionaires who have all this stuff. They didn't get there by accident, or they didn't get there without the hard.
yeah. I,
So
I'm curious about that at the 10-year mark, and you open the door, so I'm just going to shove it wide open. That's real, right? I mean, that's what you're
yeah.
describing. No matter what you see, or the couple you think you see, there's a lot underneath the surface. So what was it at the 10-year mark where you said, no, we're in it. What was that prompting where you said, no, we're going to fight through it as a couple? And tell me about that work for people. Maybe not. I mean, tell the listeners, like, tell them about that work for anybody who is like, God, we're thinking about throwing in the towel. We got 4 kids and this is really hard. So
Yeah.
what was the decision point? And then maybe practically, how did you all fight through it?
you know to be honest, it was Jesus.
Yeah, there you go. Come on.
Jesus is in there, and he was
Yep.
telling us that, like, we can't give up yet.
Yeah.
Especially me, he really spoke to my heart and was like,
Mm,
you need to give it 100%. You
mm,
don't want to regret this. I didn't want to be, 20 years down the road and have my adult children look at me and say, why didn't you give it a full shot? You know what I
wow.
mean? And so really, through feeling that spirit, that calling to
Mm,
work on it. And then my husband and I sat down and we were like, we are going to give this everything we have for 1 year. One
mm,
year, we are going to go to therapy. We're going to put in all the work. We got off all socials. We, really, when you're in that low rock bottom, it puts everything into perspective of what matters in life and what doesn't, right? We
yeah.
think stupid things matter, like what car we drive or what clothes we wear. In reality, when, somebody in your family is sick, or, you're facing divorce, that stuff doesn't matter. So
Yeah.
we really just put in the work, and then it saved us.
Mm,
Jesus was in our life and saved us, and that is really what happened with us. So, and I'm so grateful for that, because You know, there were days when my husband would walk through the door after work and my kids run to him and give him a hug. You know, that sweet moment where my heart was just like, that was the right
Mm.
decision. This is the best part of my day. You know, we were so close to losing this, but
Wow.
this is a beautiful thing that we have. So,
Gosh, I think that is, thank you for opening up about that. I think that's probably more relatable than most couples would like to talk about. That's real life.
yeah.
And that, again, that opens up the opportunity for people to just be honest. And like you said earlier, just living authentically. That's not easy to talk about with, on a podcast where people you don't know are going to listen to it,
Yeah.
or maybe even people you do know, or even worse,
Right.
people you do know are going to listen to it.
Well, and on the internet, people are so willing to just share their feelings about you.
Goodness.
You know, they're just like
Uh,
willing to give you their 2 cents on everything.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, that's amazing. You're doing a silly dance, and people are just going to say whatever they want. It's
Yeah.
the trolls are real.
Hmm.
I'm actually, that leads into a question I was going to ask a little bit later, but I'm curious. Being in a public, you talk about it, your 10-year mark, and now you're at 17 years, and from years 15 to 17, you've been more prominent, you've been more visible, which you're portraying something on a camera, and then obviously, but there's life, behind the camera.
Hmm.
What additional maybe strain has that put on your marriage, if at all, in being visible and maintaining a persona that people know, but also having to continue to do the hard work?
Yeah. So, when we started and getting on it, when we decided to both get on, the social media stuff, we
Yeah.
had a discussion before because of what we went through, right?
Mm,
Our family is first no matter what. Our marriage is first. This has to be a happy thing, a fun thing. We have to agree. We have to work through things. There are some times where we record something and I'm just like, I don't like that. I don't like,
yeah.
I can see the other side of what people are going to say. And I'll just be
Mm,
like, I'm not willing to post that. And my
mm,
husband understands and he'll be like, okay. And so, really just being open and having uncomfortable conversations, being
yeah.
willing to have those uncomfortable conversations with my spouse, with my kids. We're really just trying to communicate all the time, before stuff we even
Mm,
get to those points of things, if that makes sense. But
totally.
it's a hard balance to do that. And people see a lot of content from us, but we do a lot of batch content, which
Mm,
is we take an hour or two
yeah.
hours on the weekend and we record 20 videos, and
Yeah.
then we draft them and we save them and we spread them out through the week, so that we have set up times. There's a live option where you go live on your stuff,
Hmm.
and we wouldn't ever do that until our kids were in bed. Like, we
Got it.
won't go live until our kids are in bed because we don't want to take away from our family time. So
Yeah.
we've had to be very intentional from the beginning of making sure that we're not just consistently on our phones, because it can consume you.
Yeah.
And that's the algorithm, and how they set up all these platforms is to just continually scroll. They want you on there as long as possible. And so if you're not intentional about it and working at it, and we're not perfect. We have
Yeah.
our days and our moments where we're like, okay, we were on our phones too much today. We need to be better with the kids tomorrow. Let's put our phones away.
It's an amazing balance that you're striking there, and we're going to get into some practical stuff on how you do that, because it is pretty amazing. And I think that when we look at, I'd be curious what you think of this, and I think you'll agree, but it's almost, the iPhone's been with us for 15 years, and social media just, not that entire time, or at least not in the prominence it is
Yeah.
now, especially TikTok. But I think when people, because it's such a difficult topic, people look at it in binary terms. It's, I'm pro tech or I'm anti tech. I'm pro social media, I'm anti social media. And it doesn't factor in the nuance to it. And I think that's what you all are doing really, really well. Would you agree with that? That's kind of the general view, is it's good or it's bad, versus, hey, maybe
Yes.
there's some shades of gray in here.
Yes. I feel exactly that, where with everything across the board in our world right now, not only just tech, but the
Right.
world thinks everything is black and white. Like every decision, like every situation you get into, oh, it would be that easy. I would do this, or you
Yeah.
know what I mean? There is a gray area. We have to be willing to have empathy and to see the situation for
Mm,
what it is. And we don't know that until we're in it, you know?
wow.
And that's, you know, when we first started TikTok, people were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing that. That's such garbage. That's such trash." And I
Right.
want to be like, if you are looking for garbage and you are looking for trash, you will find it.
Interesting.
You will find it. If you're scrolling and you see a girl shaking it with barely clothing and you watch that and you like that and you
You're
comment
going
on
to get
that,
more of
guess
it.
what you're going to see? You're going to see more of that. You want to know what
Right.
I'm watching? I see therapy stuff. I see food
Mm,
TikTok. I see cleaning TikTok. I see family TikTok. I see
yeah.
dancing, you know? And
Right.
so there's an area for everything, but people just categorize and put
Yeah.
people in these boxes, right? And tech is the same way. And
Yeah.
people are just so passionate about it. Don't
It's
get me
so
started
true.
on like Apple or Android, right? Like it's like they believe really hard about
People
it.
do believe.
And I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, guys, like there's good in everything.
It's
So
so true.
yeah.
It really is. It's such an interesting topic, and you're right. And it pervades everything in culture and society as it's one
Mm-hmm.
way or the other. I always like to think, especially during COVID, people just had. I think you see a post like, how did I bet you didn't know that all of your high school friends were epidemiologists and were race experts and were because everybody had a very
Yes,
definitive
yes,
opinion. And so it's
yes.
and I think just be very wary of people who give simple solutions to complex problems. Like, well, if they
Right.
would just, I mean, you got to, when everybody starts out
Yes.
a sentence that says, well, if they would just, you be real careful about whatever they say
Well,
next.
yes, think about it. Before you were a parent, right? And I'm guilty of this. Like, I would never do that as a parent.
For sure.
Like, I am sorry, until you are a parent, you don't understand those things. Like, you can say that you're going to do or whatever, and until you're in that,
Yeah.
you don't really get it. So it's just that exactly. Like people just need a little bit more empathy and to see both sides.
Yeah, that's right. I think empathy, that is such a great word there. I'm curious how on earth. So again, the videos the content you put out really is endless. How do you not only just produce it? I get pretty, but how in the world do you think of it? How do you think of so much content? And all of them are hilarious. They're fun. They're silly. They require, good production quality. But like, how on earth do you think of all the content?
It ebbs and flows. Like it's a roller coaster. There are
Yeah.
times where we are like super creative and we
Hmm.
could go like in that batch content like I have so many ideas. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. And then we have like writer's block where
Hmm.
we are very not creative and we have to really think. So then we'll usually scroll or go to people who we love who, you know, might have good ideas and to try to get inspiration. And
Yeah.
honestly, there are times if we're not feeling it, we just take a little break because
Yeah.
I don't want
That's
to
good.
do it if it's not fun. I don't want to do it if it's not going to add value
Yeah.
or something. So I feel like you can see that if I'm not genuinely in it or loving it in
Yeah.
the videos. We notice that pretty quick if we were just doing it to get something out.
Yeah.
So we just try to when we've learned that when we are in that creative mode and we are feeling it to go with it and
I
to
like that.
really get a bunch and then that leaves us for a day where if I'm having a bad day or a crazy day with the kids and stuff like I have a video that I can post.
Yeah.
So and my
That makes
husband and I
sense.
we last January we combined our accounts.
Hmm.
So we each had at the beginning we each had our own accounts and we were doing it and it was a lot to do two, you know, and try to grow
I
two
would imagine.
accounts.
Yeah.
So by combining into one, um, you know, the Henrys, then we were able
Yeah.
to, if he's having a crazy day at work, I'm there. And if I'm having a
Right.
crazy day with the kids, he can do it. So
Yeah.
it has been, that has really helped with our balance in
Hmm.
that. So it's been really good.
You all are so intentional about tech, and you mentioned some of it earlier, and you have these great 5 tips that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But I'm curious, you're so intentional with family tech, and it seems like it's such good fodder for something more. I mean, what you're doing, I'm sure you would have thought, if I had asked you 3 years ago, you would have laughed if I said, "Hey, you're going to be a viral sensation." But so
Yeah.
what is, when you think of like, what's the next challenge? Like, what's that next? I mean, is it a parenting book? Have you guys talked about something like that? I mean,
Yeah.
you're so freaking intentional about everything you do. What do you think that next challenge might be, or stuff that you've talked about that's crazy?
Yeah, this year we have some big goals that we're wanting to do. We want to maybe, start doing longer YouTube videos on helping
Mm,
families like with marriage advice, parenting advice, things we do as a family to stay connected. Just, family is our passion and what
yeah.
we're wanting to share with everybody. And I feel like now is a good time because people have been able to watch our family over
Yeah.
a few years to see who we are, but then kind of giving the behind the scenes of what we do to keep that and to stay
Yeah.
intentional and to stay connected with our
Mm,
kids. So we'll see what happens, but
I
I'll
like
I'll
it.
let you know for sure. But
Please
we
do.
have we have some things in the works that we're trying to get out there. So
Listen, I will subscribe to that YouTube channel. I'll buy the first copy of the O. Henry's book.
you're so
I'll be
amazing.
first in line. I'm telling you. What is the I do want to talk about your 5 tips, and this is and I don't know. I heard you do a talk at the I Am Mom Summit, which
Yeah.
was so great. It was so, again, just like with a lot of the stuff you're talking about here, you're talking concepts and ambition related things, but then there are very practical things behind it. Do you remember that? You remember that talk, I'm sure, at I Am Mom.
Yeah.
I'd love for you, if you have it at the top of your brain, I'd love to hear those 5 tips when it's talking about, hey, here's how we really engage with our family with tech. And I can remind you, I haven't written down here, but I'd love to see
Okay,
if
that'd be
people
great.
watch the first one.
I
The
was like,
first
let
one
me
was
pull
just,
it up really quick.
hold on a second. The first one was all about conversations about tech. I'd love to hear that. Your
Yeah.
first tip around healthy family tech is like, you just have those family conversations. Tell us about what that might look like.
Yeah. So, from my kids being really young
Hmm.
and watching technology unfold, I've been terrified as a mom for like the
Mm,
point where my kids start to get into it, just because you read all the horror stories, you see all the things, and now there's all these statistics about how tech can be bad for kids,
yeah.
and so I've really been putting in my kids' ears and talking about it. In our house, our kids aren't allowed to watch YouTube without a parent in the room because,
Hmm.
they were watching, my girls loved Frozen when they were little. And I remember
Yeah.
having YouTube on and they were watching, which I didn't understand because they were watching Elsa Barbie dolls, people play with them when we literally had those exact same Barbies. But then on the side, I was like, you guys could just play with them, instead of watching. But on the side there were all these adult women dressed up as Disney princesses. And they'd
Wow.
click on those videos and then those videos would come up and they'd be like swearing and,
Mm,
you know, sexual innuendos and things like that. And so, we just kind of were like, we're not doing that.
yeah.
And explaining why.
Mm,
And then I was started then that really started me researching. I would go to parenting stuff, seminars, um things of how to find that balance before I got to that point because I wanted to be prepared
yeah.
before my kids got to that age. So I really dived in and researched and have been learning, and it's been a thing for me. So just being aware when my kids are like, "Hey,
Yeah.
when you get a phone, like, you are not going to have social media.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you right now, your brains aren't developed. It's not going to happen yet. You need to wait a little bit till you're a little older and you're
Yeah.
ready." And
Are they
so,
receptive to that? I mean, I'm sure they push back a little bit, but
yeah, they push back. I
yeah.
mean, we are a normal family and my kids are normal kids, and it's hard when every other kid out there has it, you
Right.
know? And so, we started our kids off with a Gab, and then this Christmas, my
Hmm.
oldest, she got an iPhone for the first time.
Yeah.
And so we are constantly doing this. Okay, well, what can you have on there? What do we feel
Yeah.
comfortable with? And so we're constantly having those conversations,
Yeah.
um, which is great because it helps us always be. I want them to be open so that because it's going to happen when they see stuff, when
Yeah.
somebody says something, that they're willing to come talk to us, that they know it's an open space because we've been having conversations throughout the years.
I love that. Second thing you have, which I thought was, I highly subscribe to this, but I like because it's so practical, is just to have a family charging station. How did that come about?
Yeah.
What's the and how have you seen the benefit of that? How does that fit into a family's life? Why is it important?
We love our charging station. I researched and learned that phones in bedrooms is
Hmm.
not good for kids, and
Yeah.
they need their sleep, and they need their safe place. Like, I want my house to be like this haven, right? I want it to
Yeah.
be safe. Our kids go to school. When we were younger, right? When we came home, we could just like turn on our cartoons and eat our
Yeah.
cold cereal and just get away from the day, like the bullies and the mean people. And
Yeah.
now it's constantly coming into the house. You know what I mean? And
For
so
sure.
I just want them to have like this safe place. And then it's easier for me to have a charging station with everything plugged in. I can check it at night and make sure everybody's stuff is there. And it can help us with balancing our screen time. Now, don't talk to me about
Yeah.
screen time right now because it's winter in Utah, and I'm just like, you guys are playing way too much video games right now. I
Yeah.
can't.
Yes. Exactly. Covering your
But
eyes. Yeah.
I don't see it, But
I know.
just I don't want my girls to have their phones in their rooms at night.
Yeah.
And my
I
daughter,
think.
who, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, you're totally right. The science, even just on the sleep itself. I mean, not even just the content. I mean, even if they're looking at, even if they were watching, Frozen or whatever it was,
Yeah,
and your daughter's too old for that now, but even that, just the loss of sleep itself, that's such a terrible spiral. It puts not just adults, but I mean, especially kids into that spiral of just losing sleep in and of itself.
yeah. And my daughter was asked me, why can't I have my phone in my room? Because
Hmm.
she had a Gab phone at the time. She's like, I can't do anything on it.
Hmm.
And I said, you know what? Because their phone was in my room at night. They'd plug it into my room. And I said, you get text messages at 10 p.m. at night from your
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
Like, you can text and call. Your friends have access to you. Even though you can't do the other things, they have access to you. So it's just, we want you to go to sleep. We need you to be
Yeah.
disconnected. And it's been good to watch because my girls will put their phones down on their own because they're used to that. They want that space sometimes. So
Yeah.
it's
I love that.
it's a balance though, and it's constantly working at it every day.
For sure. Absolutely. You also talked about screen-free family dinners. That was one of your third ones. So again, a very, very practical thing. All of us can do it. Talk about that and where you've seen the benefit in that.
The benefit in that for us is just not being distracted, not having that
Yeah.
distraction, and being present with our family.
Mm.
Uh, we don't get a lot of time, especially during the school year, and kids are busy with their activities, to sit down as a family, and how important that is to do family dinners together. So we want to be able to talk about that. And I think what started it for us too was my husband. His job that he works is 24/7. It's not
Mm.
like it closes at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And so we kind of started it with him to be like, you need to put your phone down, put it on do not disturb or something,
Yeah.
but then your numbers that if it's an emergency, they can get through. But,
Right.
there's constant stuff with his work always on his phone. So we kind of started it because we were like, Dad, we'll put a phone away. And for me, just having your phone there, it's crazy. That's why I love the box, right? Is because if your phone's
Mhm.
even there, just out of habit, we grab it and pick it up out
Yeah.
of boredom.
Right.
We just, if it's there. So,
Yeah.
and
I
now our
always say,
kids hold us accountable.
isn't that the best and the worst? They just,
It is. It
it
is.
just, I mean, And you know what I find? This is what I always find. This is always my check for myself. If I find myself being defensive, I know I'm immediately in the wrong. Well, I start
Yeah,
rationalizing.
that.
Well, it's just, and what does that mean to, my kids are 14 and 12 now, but especially when they were younger, my 6 year old, my daughter, when she was 6, she didn't know the difference between an important email versus a group text versus a cat
Mhm.
video on, they're watching
Yeah,
on YouTube or
absolutely.
whatever it is. Like, just to her, all she knew was dad's not present with me. Right.
Mhm.
And so that's a pretty important distinction in her. There's no distinction to me. It's like I start to rationalize the distinction, and then I realize I sound like an idiot, and I just need to
And I
be
love
present
that
with
you
my
say
kids.
that. Like, I need to incorporate that. If I'm feeling defensive, then I know that I'm in the wrong. That's my
Yeah.
reaction, right? I must have been
Hmm.
triggered by something. And when we're on our phones, we have less patience with our kids. Do you notice that? Like,
Oh
if
my
I'm
goodness.
scrolling, I'm like, oh, why are you asking? Like, why are you asking me a question? Oh, wait, I'm your mom. Yeah, you
Yeah.
need a snack. You
Yeah.
need food. I should
Yeah.
probably feed you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just crazy how our patience with our kids can be affected
Mm.
with having those screens constantly in our faces.
That's such an issue. I had not thought of it that way. You're right. It does reduce our own capacity and patience for something else. That really is true. It takes you out of the moment. I did it, Kelly. I did it the other night. I think about this stuff all the time. I mean, we've talked about it a ton. I I'm sitting there, my phone's in the RO box, and I take it out, and I'm literally, this is embarrassing to even say, I'm talking to my daughter, and mid sentence, I just look at something and I stop talking. My daughter gives me about 4 seconds. She said, "Hey, Dad, are you going to finish your sentence?" I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm being such a hypocrite." She goes, "Yeah, you are. You are being a hypocrite," which is hilarious, but it's great. Like, that's the best thing they can do,
Yes, it
and you
is.
invite that as a parent to
Yes.
say, and that's what I love. I do love that, and it's back to your first one, the family conversations. It gives them license to give you crap when
Yep.
you're being a hypocrite.
And it's intentional. Like you said,
Yeah.
you do this every day, and this is my passion as teaching families,
Hmm.
and I talk to my kids about it nonstop. I want them to be intentional at home. If I'm not working at it consistently every day, of course it's so easy to fall back,
Yeah.
right? So it takes work.
Yeah, it does. That's the theme here. It does. The things that are important take work.
Hmm.
You also do, which is cool. You also have just the screen and social media breaks, the days
Yeah.
off. What does that look like? How do you all put that into practice?
Yeah, over it's been 2.5, almost 3 years since we've been, doing this. And
Hmm.
there's been many times where we just feel not good about it. We just feel
Mm,
gross. We feel not excited. And and I lean into that. Okay, I'm feeling that. We need a break. We need
yeah.
to, and we don't announce it or anything. It's not like, hey, we're going to take a week break or whatever. But it's really good for us to do that occasionally, to when we feel it, when we get that feeling
Yeah.
that we need to. um and that's what we're trying to, it's been better as we are trying to intentionally balance it better. We don't feel
Yeah.
like we have that as much, because it's not as consuming, because
Yeah.
you can,
Right.
put it away, separate it. And that was part of our journey too, is figuring out, okay, this is not like real life, this isn't everything. We need to
Yeah.
put it in its space, be here. So
I love that. And then the other side of your fifth tip, which this is freaking genius to me. This is So we just talked about your screen breaks. Then you have family screen nights. So where you say,
yeah.
"Hey, we're doing the screens tonight."
Yeah.
That to me, I think, is brilliant. How did you think of that? Why did you think of that? What does that look like? I love that one.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun, and it gives you a chance to see what your kids are doing. It gives
Hmm.
you a chance to understand and to be passionate, like what they're passionate about, getting involved in. That means everything to them. So I think it started with video games, with my boys playing and my
Hmm.
husband playing with them. And
Oh,
like
so that's why he just
they're
wanted to play. But Dan just wanted to play video
right,
games,
right.
right?
But they had so much fun, and the boys, my little boys, lit up. And then after, my husband was just like, that was the funnest thing ever. I would love
Mm,
to play with them more. And so, then my girls got that Oculus virtual
yeah.
reality thing, and I want to know what that's like. So,
Yeah.
we're in there doing the drums and the rock climbing and all of
So
that
fun.
stuff, and it's just fun, and we cast it as a family on the screen. it brings us together, and it's so great to not be, the nagging mom all the time.
Yeah.
You
Mm.
know, it's constantly, trying to find the balance of, okay, probably time to be off of the screens. Let's do something different. What are you up to on your phone?
Yeah.
We feel like we're constantly nagging, and so it's fun to just have fun with your kids and to
So,
be involved in what they're doing.
and it makes them and it makes them like you more, I'm sure. Like it's not all, I'm sure my kids get a little tired of me talking about screens, and I got to be careful not to just harp on it so much, because nagging's not fun for the nagger, and it's not fun for
Right.
the naggee either. They don't like, and so it's just it wears everybody out, and then it gives your kids a better appreciation. That to me is a brilliant one. It's just a
And
full
I love
embrace.
it. Yeah. And I love it because then when they are doing it by themselves, I know exactly what they're doing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? When they're
Yeah.
saying, I'm playing this game or whatever it might be, I've been there and done it with them. And I'm like, and I
Yeah.
feel more confident about it. And then if there's some part about it that we don't like, we make adjustments.
Yep.
Roblox, our kids used to play Roblox. And then,
Hmm.
we kind of cut that off after diving into it a little bit,
Mm.
and it's a good thing. Us as parents, we have to know what our kids are doing. We have to
Yeah.
be in it and see it.
That's
As
right.
much as I would like to not,
Yeah.
you know, it's
Well,
important.
this is where, and this must be a superpower of yours. You mentioned the word empathy before, and this is another version of it, is just getting on your kids' level and not expecting them to come to you going to them, and having that empathy. What a great gift you can give them, because in doing that, you're telling your kids that you accept them, and then they feel good about themselves, and that makes them more open to the next, hard conversation or whatever it is, or to opening up with you. That's, again, you guys need to write a book. This
I
is great stuff.
appreciate that. That
Absolutely.
was a great compliment. Thank you.
Well, it's very, very true, and I bet you know that about yourself on the empathy, because it's very apparent. Um, Last question for you, and it's open ended. So you go whatever direction you want with it. Our podcast is conversations with people who strive to live intentionally. So what does intentionality mean to you?
Intentionality to me means having a purpose,
Mm.
having a vision, having a goal, and every day working towards that,
Mm.
of, is this what I'm doing right now going to get me to where I want to be?
Mm.
Because in this world, with all the distractions, with all the things, we could just be like zombies, right? We could put on Netflix for hours. We could,
Yeah.
do these things, but our actions, right? Our
Mm.
actions, what actions are we taking to live intentionally to get to where we want to be, And I'm a firm believer, like if I'm not comfortable or if I'm not where I want to be, I'm going to research and learn and fix
Yeah.
the problem and do what I need to do to get to where I want to be. You don't have to be stuck in wherever you're at.
Yeah.
We have that power in our
Mm.
lives to make the best of everything, to get out of it, to grow from that. But it's hard work, and it's easier to
Yeah.
almost sit in it, right? And
For sure.
complain and to deal with that. So, I mean, trust me, it's a lot easier to not care what my kids are doing on their phones instead
Mm.
of checking it and being involved. It's so much easier for me to just be like,
That's so true.
I'm just going to sit here and do my thing. You do your thing, and I'm just going to trust.
Wow.
That's easier. It's harder to be intentional and to work towards that. So I
Mm.
feel like it's just being present every day in what your actions are doing.
That's so good. It really is. And I love that when what I loved about for you, it's not just having that, it's the combination of knowing where you're going, but to your point, the action behind it. It's, intention without action, like that just is just potential, not kinetic energy. So that's really strong, that combination of the two. I love that. Um, Two things. One, I want you and Dan on in a few months. I want to go. If you guys are willing to, I want to go deep into the marriage stuff, because
Okay.
that's such an important topic. That's really, really great stuff. And again, thank you for being open there. Um, Everybody's going to want to go check you out on Instagram, TikTok, everything. Where can people find you? What's the best way to connect with you all on your social channels?
Yeah, we would love to have you guys come connect with us. We're pretty cool. We're pretty fun.
Pretty cool.
Like,
I can firsthand, I can say pretty cool.
So we're the O.Henrys on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube. And then on Facebook, we just got on Facebook and we're Dan Kellie Henry. So on
Dan,
Facebook,
and that's
if you
Kelly,
want.
i.e. Dan Kellie
Yes.
Henry, and
Yeah.
Henrys, plural
Yes.
Henrys.
Yes.
We'll put that in the show description as
Okay.
well.
Thank you.
Kelly, you're just the best. Thank you
You're the
so much.
best,
No,
Joey.
you're the best.
This has been so
I've really,
fun.
yeah, this has been fun and really valuable. I mean, fun and also just very, very deep and authentic. So thank you, Kelly. Really, really appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much for having me. It was such an honor to be here.